The film begins with Julia sitting with her dog, both contemplating nature. The next day, Julia goes to school and sits in class next to her friend Savita. They start chatting quietly because they want to make friends. In general, during the teacher's explanation of today's lesson, all the students learned that today a cosmic phenomenon will occur, which happens only about every 50 years. This phenomenon is the meteor shower, which consists of a large number of meteors falling to the Earth in the atmosphere, but they look absolutely stunning, like a show happening in the sky. Everyone decided to attend this event today. And then the class ends, and everyone leaves at the end of the day, heading home. Artyom, who is Julia's friend and also loves her very much, comes along. They both hope to get married someday. Currently, Artyom is taking Julia to attend the rain event together. Julia first goes home to pick up some things, but the problem is that as soon as she arrives, she finds her father there. Julia's mother has been deceased for a long time, and she only has her father, General Lebedev, who is a strict military general. So Julia currently tells him that she is going with Artyom to attend the rain event. Her father of course refuses, especially because Artyom clearly seems like a beggar child. In general, he tells her firmly that this is his final decision and leaves. But unfortunately, Julia is a rebellious girl, so she sneaks out to Artyom anyway, and they go together to a high building in the city to watch the event from the rooftop. Julia's friend Zvita is there, and she's very happy to see her. They all sit and celebrate together until after a while, Artyom and Julia go to a place, and they settled in a place, all waiting to watch the great event. At this time, in space, we find a strange-looking spaceship hovering above the Earth. However, something is heading towards Earth, causing the spaceship to malfunction and descend towards the planet. At this moment, the Ministry of Defense receives the news and learns that a very large object is approaching Earth. They immediately order the aircraft to launch and strike this object because no one knows what it is. The aircraft quickly take off and fire missiles at the spaceship, causing it to malfunction further, and with all its might, it begins to... And my friend were excited and waiting for the meteor showers. However, the spaceship powerfully started wreaking havoc, causing destruction and casualties. Within seconds, it created chaos. Unfortunately, during this chaos, the second spaceship was also destroyed. As for Julia and Artyom, they were injured unusually, but they survived. After the devastation and landing, the soldiers took their leader to see the object that had landed. So first he deployed many soldiers to secure the area. Then he approached the spaceship, and here the creature seemed strange to him. The creature approached him and spoke to Labid. "We don't want to harm you. We will leave from here if you just give us some time. We won't be able to stay here." Immediately, they left Labid and returned to a meeting with the ministries. They told Labid that they didn't know what this spaceship was or why it had landed, but they said they needed some time. At that moment, the head of the ministries saw that there was no other option for them because they couldn't wage war against people whose strength they didn't know. So they decided to monitor the spaceship moment by moment, but they didn't take any action. And from that moment, the news of the spaceship spread worldwide, and the rumor that planet Earth had entered into a war with unknowns was everywhere. Then, at that time, Julia wakes up in the hospital, and she finds many injured people there. As soon as she looks at the television, she learns all that happened. Unfortunately, she finds the headset of her friend Zafita next to her, as it's all that's left of her. Julia now goes out to Artyom, who was sitting outside. She asks about her friend, and he tells her that she died when the spaceship landed on Earth. Julia becomes upset, but after a while, General Lebedev, her father, comes and takes her to the compound. During the ride home, while Lebedev and Julia are on their way, Julia asks her father about the spaceship that landed. Her father tells her that, so far, he doesn't know anything about it. Julia falls silent, and after a while, everyone arrives home. Julia's grandmother had come to the house to live there to check on them and spend some time with them amid the chaos happening all over the world. In general, he goes to Bidev, and the next day Julia goes to school, but of course in an armored vehicle because she and her classmate from the area live very close to where the ship landed. Therefore, an armored vehicle takes them to school safely. She goes to school, and there the teacher was talking with Julia and her classmate about the great event of the ship landing on Earth. It's an amazing opportunity to get to know other beings from other planets and to realize that we are not alone. Julia was thrilled and kept, because this is their land, and these aliens came and killed their friends, their people, and many innocent people, causing devastation. Consequently, she takes herself now, angry, and Julia, in that moment of anger, went to her father's safe and took out a gun. After that, she took herself and went straight to their land, to the location where her friends Ruslan, Bison, and Zania are currently staying. When Julia arrived, she told them, "We must reclaim our rights and expel the invaders from..." At this moment, my friend Artyom didn't really know. He and his friends got courage and bravery from them, but with all their foolishness, they agreed to nonsense. So, they all took themselves now and went towards a passage leading to the place where the ship is. I say passage because there is currently a military blockade on the area where the ship is. If they don't go through the secret passage they won't know how to enter the area. Anyway, they all entered the secret passage and reached the area. Then Artyom placed Yulia in a car that was parked there to ensure there were 8. As for him and his friends, they kept documenting these creatures. Yulia didn't listen and went out, starting to wander here and there. After that, she went up to her friend Sveta's apartment, which was also in the area. Yulia went up and kept looking at her friend's pictures, feeling sad and missing her. The problem was that Yulia immediately found the alien creature in front of her, so she got very scared and almost screamed, but the creature saved her. At that moment, Artyom and his friends gathered due to Yulia's cries and started hitting the creature until it fell from the building. Then they rushed to Yulia and went to see this strange creature. They found the creature lying there, but felt it was empty, but covered in blood. They realized it was just a suit and someone was inside it, and the person had escaped. Yulia looked beside her. She found a human-like figure lying on the side, but she didn't find anything else. She immediately told everyone to take this suit and leave. At that moment, they found everything acting like a shield in the place and they wanted to take it, but it was too heavy. So they only took the suit that was there and left the place. But sir, they all fled from the place and returned to the workshop. There they examined the suit and were very impressed by it. At the same time, they literally didn't know what to do with it. So Artie told them, let's sleep now. And indeed, everyone went to sleep. However, my friend Yulia couldn't sleep. Instead, she immediately took herself alone and took the second one to the restricted area and went to the place where the suit had been lying. And here, Yulia realized when she saw a human lying on the side, it wasn't her imagination, but the one in the suit, who was supposed to be an alien, was actually a human and was lying there because he was injured. Yulia tried to wake him up but couldn't, so she placed him on a winch that was lying there in the area, put him in her car, and rushed him to the school. Why? Because Yulia has a friend named Google who is very brilliant and has studied many things, including medicine. So she wanted him to treat the human in front of them. But as soon as Yulia brought Google, he was very excited because he was an alien and was surprised that it was a human at the same time. Overall, Google told her that they now need to take him to the hospital to learn more about him. So, Yulia and Google went to the hospital and entered with him as if he were injured. And of course, they were all dressed as doctors so that no one would notice them. They then arrived at an empty place and began working with all their might to treat this man. Because he had a blood hemorrhage, Yulia also gave him some of her blood. They all remained hopeful that this man would regain consciousness. After a while, Yulia looked at the man's hand and found a bracelet with a strange shape. But suddenly, the bracelet clung to Yulia's hand and nothing else appeared. Let me tell you, this bracelet is very, very important, my friend, because we will need it a lot in the future. Uncle, this man also didn't wake up, so Yulia and Google took him and placed him in a storage room that belonged to them, but it was a bit far from the hospital. Yulia told Google, I'm going to leave now, but you keep an eye on him and I'll be back in a little while. Meanwhile, on the other side, we find that the army has a device similar to a shield that fell in a place very close to where the ship landed. Currently, General Yabedi is working with the scientists to examine it. The idea is that at this time, a new problem arises. People go to the city lake and find it completely dry. After this happened, the entire ministry holds a meeting with the army and the scientists. At this point, one of the scientists stands up and tells everyone that most of the city's water has actually run out because the spaceship attracted it all. According to our knowledge, these people used the water to repair the ship's body due to the damage from the fall. At this moment, General Bidev continued and told the Prime Minister, we also have a body similar to a shield that has fallen. This body attracts water, and we still don't know why it draws water. The Prime Minister noticed this and said, unfortunately, we have no solution other than to wait. Maybe they will indeed fix the situation and leave. As for the people, find a way to get them water somehow, because if people remain without much water, they will revolt against us. And with that, the meeting ends. Meanwhile, Yulia returns to Google at the warehouse because he called her and told her that the man has woken up. As soon as Yulia arrives at the warehouse, she goes to check on the man, who is the alien. She finds that he is indeed awake. She starts talking to him and asks him for his name. The man tells her that his name is Hakun, and Yulia says to him, look here, I helped and treated you because you helped me when I was about to fall off a building and you saved me. But now we're even. Put on some of the clothes I brought. And leave completely. At that moment, Hakun silently puts on his clothes, gathers his things, and leaves. But here, Yulia realizes that Hakun is an alien, and she literally let him walk alone in the street. So she ran out after him to bring him back before he gets into trouble. And indeed, he did get into trouble because a group of officers stopped him and asked for his ID. He told them he didn't have it, so they took him to the police station. At that moment, Yulia saw what happened and decided to go and help Hakun. Go around. He finds that Artyom is sitting with his friends in the workshop, trying to cut the spacesuit they have, but the suit is very strong. Artyom tells them, I'll talk to General Lebedev, Yulia's father, and he will take it and handle it. Indeed, Artyom called him and agreed to meet him later. So, Artyom's friends took him by car to the place where he would meet Lebedev. This place, sir, was one of the government headquarters, and people were standing in front of it, holding large demonstrations because they wanted water. The problem was that Artyom and his friends kept standing there because they thought Lebedev would come soon. Unfortunately, the demonstrations turned into riots, and people started attacking the soldiers. Consequently, Artyom's friends got caught in the middle and were hit. Artyom quickly told them to leave, but he decided to stay and wait. However, when Artyom saw that the chaos was spreading further, he tried to help and mediate between everyone, but he got hit and was arrested on charges of rioting. Unfortunately, at that moment, Lebedev had arrived. Artyom was seen being arrested, and he couldn't even express himself. At that time, Mr. Artyom was taken by the police, and Hakon was literally next to him, but he didn't know that. However, in the complex, Juliet came out, and Hakon saw Artyom being arrested. Artyom told her, "Don't worry, I'll be out in a day." Artyom was seen being arrested. As for Julia, she got Hakon out of the station because she is the daughter of the general who steps in. After she got them out of the station, Julia told him, "I won't leave you until you take your ship and leave here." Hakon replied, "I can't leave here without, the device." She asked him, "What is this device?" He explained, "It's a device we use to travel to distant places, and my planet is far away. Without the device, we won't be able to leave here." Afterward, Hakon described the device to Julia, and she realized that her father and his associates were suspicious of it. "By the way, this is the strange-looking object I mentioned to you, and it means that Labid has taken it to keep an eye on it in his collection." Julia decided to help Hakon, so she went to her father's headquarters. There, she asked a soldier to tell her father that his daughter wanted to see him. She was allowed to enter with Hakon, under the pretense that Hakon was just a friend and nothing more. The important thing is that Julia kept arguing with her father over trivial matters, trying to distract him in every possible way. Meanwhile, Hakon took Labid's card, which he uses as a key, and swapped it out. He then went to search for the device until he reached the lab where it was located. Quickly, he touched the device and retrieved the sphere, which was crucial for him, and immediately left the place. At that moment, the scientists who were there alerted Labid, and he activated the alarm, warning of an intruder. Labid entered the lab and said, "Don't take the device and leave." With all elegance, Julia took Hakon, and they left Labid's facility, literally safe in their vehicle. While being escorted, Artyom called Julia and told her he breached the system and wanted to meet. However, Julia didn't want to meet him as she was currently with Hakon, so she hung up and exited with Hakon. Hakon wanted to leave and go place the device on the ship, but Julia told him he needed to wait until night to use the secret passage so no one would see him. Hakon agreed, so Julia took him to her house to eat and rest. After a while they arrived there, and the grandmother was also present. Julia told her that Hakon was a friend and would eat with them before leaving. The grandmother accepted the situation, and now Julia and Hakon started eating. You could say, my friend, that Julia and Hakon began to develop feelings for each other. I forgot the day. Something appeared on TV. Then a picture of Hakon appears on TV, and the news says he stole from the army and escaped. Julia sees her father coming home with soldiers, so she takes Hakon and runs. When the people who came to arrest Hakon arrive, they find that he and Julia have already escaped. Julia and Hakon, my friends, when they escaped, they went straight to Google. Julia asked him to give them any clothes to disguise themselves because they needed to stay out of sight until dawn when everyone would be asleep and they could escape. After changing all their clothes, Julia took Hakon to a party in the middle of the street because the party was crowded with people and no one would pay attention to Hakon since no one was focusing on anyone else. But unfortunately, one of Artyom's friends was there, and by sheer coincidence, he saw Julia and Hakon. The jealous friend was angry and called his friend to tell him that Julia was cheating. The situation passed with my friend, and dawn broke. Julia took Hakon through the tunnels and led him towards the area where his ship was. She bid him farewell, filled with sadness as she loved him, and he felt the same way. At that moment, Hakon left and started walking away. Julia received a call from Artyom, and at this point, Julia was tired of him. So she told him, "I hate you and I don't love you," and Artyom was left speechless. God was by his side metaphorically, and he decided to separate from her immediately after his friend spoke to him. Artyom was anxious because he loved Julia and trusted her, and ultimately, she betrayed him for an alien she didn't even know yet. Consequently, Artyom had his friends capture Hakon and assault him. During the assault, they noticed his device and tried to seize it. Even though Julia had told them that this man was not an ordinary human, that he was an alien, and that the device was important for him to leave Earth completely, they kept hitting him. Julia tried to intervene and stop the madness. Okay, so Artyom hit her angrily. And here, Hakan got angry and stood up strongly, hitting everyone left and right. One of Artyom's friends pulled out a gun to shoot Hakan, but accidentally killed one of his own friends. When this happened, the boy fled from there, shocked by what he had done because he killed his friend. As for Artyom and his other friend, they were panicking about their friend who was dying in front of their eyes. But in the end, they took each other and ran away because the army arrived, firing shots, and Yulia and Hakan were arrested. After what happened, Artyom, 2 letters possible, so I got so angry that he got angry the whole class. He literally said, "It's me and my enemies," and immediately started posting videos with his other friend, and many articles claiming that the aliens who came down took our water and would also destroy many buildings and kill many people. Finally, just a while ago, a friend of ours was just taken, so we were going to gather and meet in front of their ship in a few hours to get our rights back from them. And that's it, sir. This talk spread from here, and you wouldn't believe the chaos that ensued. People from everywhere gathered, all tense and angry, and they went to the district gate where the ship was. There, Artyom started inciting them, saying that the aliens did this and that to us, and the army is protecting them, so we will take our rights ourselves. Artyom gave them a lot of weapons, then told his friend, "I'm going to the workshop and will be back." His friend took the car and drove it with full force at the district gate, breaking it and allowing everyone to enter. Immediately, everyone started fighting with the army soldiers. Meanwhile, Artyom finally went to the workshop where he exchanged with the aliens there to become strong and take his rights himself. At that time, the Prime Minister was informed about the disasters happening now, so he called General Lebedev to take action before these people reached the ship. At that moment, Lebedev had already reached his daughter and Hakan. Hakan told Lebedev, "I am not a human being. I am the one who came with the spaceship. You and your soldiers must catch up with these people and prevent them from approaching the ship, as the ship has robots that will eliminate anyone who gets close. If the people manage to destroy these robots and reach the ship's defense system will cause it to self-destruct, which will destroy every part of the world." At that moment, my friend Lebedev was in disbelief and was planning to detain him there. At that time, Yulia drew her gun and told her father, "If you don't let me go now with Hakan so that we can head to the ship, I'll take my own life, just like they left Breda." So, Yulia took Hakan in an armored vehicle and rushed quickly to the ship. At that moment, near the ship, people had reached the robots and were literally tearing each other apart, and there was a massacre happening there. Finally, Yulia approached with the armored vehicle, and Hakan had reached Artan in the suit he was wearing and immediately began trying to destroy the vehicle. Yulia kept trying to knock him down, but the vehicle flipped. The only one who arrived with his soldiers, and they started trying to stop the chaos between the robots and the humans. Here, they found that they were studying the situation and said to stop the chaos. As for Hakan, after the vehicle was overturned, he was exhausted, so he got out and started fighting with him. Although Hakan was strong, Artyom was about to collapse, so Yulia hit him with the vehicle and slammed him into the wall. After that, she got out to check on Hakan. At this moment, Artyom's suit was destroyed, so he grabbed a rifle that was next to him and shot Hakan. Unfortunately, Yulia and both of them were hit and were bleeding. At this point, the rest of the soldiers arrived and captured Artyom, but it was too late. Lebedev was literally about to die from grief over his daughter. However, they tried again. Tadi took Hakan and Yulia and brought them both inside the ship itself. And of course, Lebedev went in with them, not understanding anything. But when Lebedev went inside, he saw the robots had placed Hakan and Yulia on strange platforms, and they started undergoing a procedure. The ship's system, Sul, began speaking with Lebedev. Lebedev asked Sul what they were doing to his daughter. Sul replied they were healing her and assured him she would live because Hakan had given her his essence and therefore she wouldn't die. Unfortunately, Hakan died. At that moment, Lebedev asked Sol what had brought them to their planet. Sol replied that they lived on a planet far more advanced than theirs. Thus, a part of them, like Hakan, was sent with their ship to monitor distant planets like theirs and observe their development. However, by accident, they were hit by meteors falling on Earth, which disrupted their system. As a result, their ship accidentally descended towards Earth, but they were planning to leave again, if it weren't for the fact that they quickly attacked them with missiles, which completely destroyed the system and caused us to crash on your planet. And once you finished talking, suddenly Yulia woke up because she was no longer scared. And unfortunately, she found that Hakan was not there, realizing he had died. With great sadness, she placed the chip in the ship and left it with her father. They boarded Hakun's ship with its robots. And finally, they flew away and left Earth completely. And you have shown me, my friend, that after what happened, humans will not be able to live normally again, especially after realizing they are not alone in this world. And that's it. The last thing we see is Hakan waking up on his ship, which means he didn't die. What exactly does this mean will happen? I still don't know.